Klara Bilic-Meštrić. I work at the University of Zagreb, Center for Croatian Studies, and I'm going to talk about action research as the shape of science. I've been a practitioner, I've been a supervisor, and I've been also like a consultant on action research projects, so I will talk about my experience from these different perspectives. So one of the basic questions we need to pose when we work in social sciences and humanities is, what do we actually do? Like the question why and the purpose of everything. So some say that we actually describe and interpret the world. Some people say what we do is just that we deliver the questionnaire and give it to a statistician, and then these persons do all the science. And so you have this A option, B option, and that's not something we like. And I see people going like this, we don't do that. Of course we don't. And there is a C option as well. Of course there are more options, but let's make it simple for this presentation. So what you can also do is do action research. I don't know if you recognize the guy on the right, if you've seen the movie. Do you recognize the movie?
Yes, Matrix.
Okay, Morpheus, the Matrix, that's right. And he actually talked to Neo, Keanu Reeves, and he offered him 2 pills. So the blue pill, which says, if you take the blue pill, the world will stay as it is, nice and comfortable, and you will just have a nice, cozy life. But there is also a red pill, which will take you to the end of the rabbit hole. And it's going to be a lot more challenging and exciting. So this is my Morpheus here, sitting here. This is the person who gave me a red pill a long time ago. I will say a few words about the red pill and about Morpheus too. So the first encounters with the basic concepts happened a long time ago. I was working as a teacher in eastern Croatia. This is the region we all actually come from, and it was the region, it is still a region which was devastated by the war. It was a war-torn area. And I worked on the project New School. So it was the endeavor to build a new school in the divided city and segregated city of Vukovar, which was heavily destroyed during the war. And Nancy Daler Center from Osijek tried to establish this school. And they gathered some of the teachers who worked in segregated schools. I used to work in one of such schools. And they invited Branko to help with the project. So that's when I first heard these concepts: communities of practice, participatory education, critical pedagogy. We didn't do actual research back then, but we did build a community of practice. And that's why I actually became acquainted with the concept of science as social practice that needs to change the world. So this is the approach I was introduced to science with, and this is the approach I actually cannot imagine my life being without when doing science. In 2009, Branko hired me on his project, developing creativity in wildlife education of teachers, and he told me that I should also conduct action research. So this was my first action research. You can imagine who is Branko and who is me in this image. So I was really feeling like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is so exciting, and I'm a bit frightened. And actually, I like this image because that's when I mentor, when I supervise action research studies. This is how most of the teachers feel when they do it for the first time. They're like really excited, but they keep on saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea if what I'm doing is right. So this is a general feeling of excitement, but also of exploring the unknown. When we talk about exploring the unknown, I had huge support from my critical friends, Sanja, who addressed you first here today, Branko, and Snježana, who is not here with us today. So there are 3, oh, that's in the next image, sorry. So my critical friends from the very first action research study I did when I started working at university, and they actually helped a lot in this process. And I can't imagine doing action research even today without critical friends. I really think they are crucial ingredients in a good study. It doesn't have to be action research, but a good collaboration group that's so important for the social studies and humanities. And then, 10 years later, when I think back, when I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking, what are the patterns? What's there? There is a code. And then I realized that there are actually two topics that I'm working on all the time. So one of them is dialogue, and it's always a question how to engage in dialogue with. I actually work as a sociolinguist, and it's, no matter what I do, if I study speaking communities, in my teaching practice, as a practitioner, it's always how to engage in a dialogue. So the first study I conducted with Branko and my critical friend Sanja here, it was about dialogue with students. The focus was on ICT in education, digital technologies, but it was also the idea of what can you do with new technologies to create dialogue, how you can empower their role in classroom by creating a deep dialogue. And then there are a couple of papers that I published with my students on this, and this was also part of this dialogue that we actually wrote together, worked together in the classroom. I gave them the role to monitor me, and then we produced papers together. It's also about dialogue at all levels. It's about dialogue with your critical friends, how to be honest with your critical friends. Sometimes you want to say things that they might not like. Sometimes you need to hear things that you don't like. So how to cope with that. The same thing with speakers of minority languages. My PhD was on Ossetic minority languages, and I also led a project in Zadar with one endangered language, Arbanasi. There are only 200 speakers left. So it was the same thing, how to engage them in this process. How can they have an active role in the research process. My colleague Alexandra, she's also here from Current Croatian Academic and Research Network. We did Project Schools 2.0 together. Again, the same thing was how can we communicate? How can we all have the same, and can we have the same role in the process? And this is actually something that leads to the second recurring subject and challenge number 2. It's a researcher positioning. So you come from the outside to some community, and you sort of have this power. You are like from academia, which to many people may seem as an ivory tower, and in a way it is. I have a dress with elephants today just to prove the point. And you tell somebody you should change the world. So, of course, this is not the way it goes. Of course, Branko taught me, you ask them what they need, what they want. But it's not always that you have this position that you can ask them what you want. If you work on the project on endangered languages, you come with a position, oh, we need to save the languages. So it's always hard to balance between your values, and you are from a position of power, somebody who comes and they see you as somebody who knows more about things. So this patronizing position is something which I tend to think about and write about. But the question we always need to pose in social sciences and humanities, whatever we do, is who benefits and how somebody benefits. Maybe the best example was the research with Roma population that is being done over and over again. And you have people from academia, NGOs, and they all get money for that research. And they work with the least powerful in society. So it's always the balance and the questions of who gets what. But I still think it really makes sense to do action research. So why? Because there are always these power relations in society that we need to be aware of. Maybe we do not need to deconstruct them, but we definitely need to be aware of them. And they're everywhere. So we talk about teacher-student relation, like teachers are in a position of power, but you will also find situations, schools where students are in a position of power, in big cities, in schools where you have children coming from well-off families, well-educated parents, and you have teachers who feel intimidated, and especially if they're underpaid, they will feel insecure and threatened by the position of power of their pupils. So it's not always like teacher is in the position of power. One of the actual research studies I did was with a head teacher who was facing challenges regarding introducing ICT in school, and he saw teachers as problems. Like teachers don't want to use ICT. And through the process, we came to a conclusion that he may actually be part of the problem. He's in a position of power, he likes ICT, So maybe it's not that, maybe it's always the balance, power balance, and who does what and why, these questions. And I also want to stress that the best action research studies, from my experience, are those that are the most challenging ones. One of the best action research studies I did was with my students, when I actually lost their trust. In the first year, we did action research, Branko and me, and Sanja as a critical friend. And it was a great pilot. And I got all the best grades at the end from them, like excellent feedback. And I kind of got too relaxed. And I became too friendly. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this so good. I really don't need to worry about anything. So in my second year, they really criticized my work. And then when I told Branko about this, Branko told me, but this is a great challenge. You have a great topic for action research. And that's what we did in the third year. So it was how to reestablish trust with your students. And this is one of the best action research studies I ever conducted because it was so challenging. It wasn't like a technical thing, let's improve one tiny detail. It was my whole relationship with these students that fell apart and that we actually managed to bring back. The head teacher I told you about, this was a difficult process. It didn't happen during the period of action research. It happened during writing. When we were writing the report, he came to realize that he may be the part of the problem. Also, one thing that I want to, that I remember well from all these projects was when Sanja and I were working on the first pilot study, on the first action research, ICT in education. That was the topic I did. And I was writing a report, and Sanja said, that's not good. I don't like it, that's not you. When you did the study, I really like the study, but now when I read it, I don't see you in this study. So these things that actually sort of get the best out of you or best out of somebody else, these are the best situations I remember. And there are those where you have to give up. And I did action research with my son. I wanted to teach him English, and he really didn't want to work with me. And I just had to give up, and I had to write. I didn't manage. But then that's the thing you do all life. So there's always a chance you might do it one day. And to finish with, in social sciences and humanities, I think we always need to be aware of the context where we work. So today we work in this neoliberal, precarious world where nothing is safe, and people are just fighting so much for just basic things. And we also have this capitalist dominant paradigm in science, this commodification, corporation business culture. Commodification meaning everything is turned into goods, into money, and all these vocabulary that we use, indicators, learning outcomes, it came from American corporate business. So we count everything can be turned into value, into money. So we need to be aware of this. And for these reasons, I think we need action research more than ever, because there is nothing neutral. And in action research, there is always this utopian position of the world that could be. Thank you.